The Killers. There's 7 of them right now, with many to come, so today I did some digging and found out the sad backstories and secret lore to each one, starting with Coolkidd. Coolkidd is one of the most interesting killers because he's actually the adopted son of the survivor 007. When he was a pill baby, he was left on 007's doorstep, causing him to adopt Coolkidd. This made 007 to also quit hacking to try to be a good dad, which he struggled with, as you'll see later. When Coolkidd turned 10, 007 gave him a much weaker version of the cool GUI that he used to terrorize Robloxia years ago. But Coolkidd eventually found the real cool GUI and used it to found Team Coolkidd, a Roblox hacker group that brought similar destruction to Robloxia and targeted places like work at a pizza place, which we actually see the aftermath of in-game. Because of this, the Spectre, the creator of Forsaken and sort of god of the Forsaken universe, forsook Coolkidd. But because Coolkidd was, well, an innocent kid, he diluted him into believing that they were just playing a game of tag, and when he quote-unquote tagged the survivors, they just took long naps from playing too hard. This explains why, unlike the other killers, he just kinda pokes when he attacks, instead of using a more dangerous weapon like Slasher or 1X. In his Milestone 4, we see a version of Coolkidd that eventually realized he was killing people instead of tagging them, but still chooses to kill as he says it made him feel like he was a god. But that's it for Coolkidd, so let's get into Slasher. Now, Slasher's backstory is, in my opinion, the saddest, as Slasher behind the mask is actually a bacon hair named Jason, who was extremely unattractive, dumb, and unpopular, causing him to be bullied relentlessly. In his childhood, he only had his mom, Paula, to help him from the bullies. After a few years, the Bacon Empire, which Slasher lived in, started to carry out mass genocides against the guests, starting the guest war against Roblox. Jason was drafted into this war, but unlike his childhood, he was finally treated equally and used his physical strength to his advantage to be at the same level as every other soldier. But unfortunately, during one of the battles, Slasher was defeated and kidnapped as a prisoner of war, then transported to Area 51. There, he became a test subject for a super soldier project. He was chosen because the host, the Necrobloxicon, needed a vessel with only one family member, and Slasher fit that role perfectly. He was subjected to very cruel tests and kept in a small prison cell until the Necrobloxicon finally chose him as its vessel. When he was corrupted by it, he heard his mother's voice coming from it that the Necrobloxicon was mimicking, influencing him to become more violent and do its bidding. Eventually, he escaped during a coordinated breakout with 2 unreleased killers, Slender Man and Jeff the Killer, who later became his best friends, finally giving him the friends he's wanted for so long. After this, the Slasher and his friends committed many killings in Robloxia, and then were eventually forsaken when the Spectre found them. In Forsaken, there isn't much lore for Slasher except that he hates Guest 1337 because of the intense propaganda from the Bacon Empire and the fact he was held captive for so long. But that's it for Slasher, so let's get into John Doe. John Doe, before Forsaken, was very happily married to his wife, Jane Doe. The two were complete opposites. John was extroverted while Jane was introverted. John had little ambition while Jane had tons. And even at where they worked, the Roblox headquarters under the Roblox admins researching defunct and corrupted code from the early days of Roblox, John worked a desk job while Jane would work in the field. But on March 18, 2017, John Doe became corrupted by highly destable defunct code that took the form of a parasite. He was the perfect vessel for it because of how basic he was, causing it to deeply corrupt and mutilate him, and eventually destroyed his identity, fully merging with John Doe, making it to where if the parasite was removed manually, it would kill John. At some point in time after this, he was forsaken by the Spectre, of course, which didn't really need to motivate a literal parasite to kill. But you might be asking, what about his wife? Well, what's really interesting about Jane is that she is a confirmed future survivor, but I have a theory that unlike the other survivors who were forsaken due to their trauma attracting the Spectre, Jane actually will choose to enter Forsaken to try her best to cure John, getting closer and closer as it seems like the Spectre shares the same colors as John, possibly meaning the cure could be found within him, saving the only truly good killer. But that's it for John Doe. But before we get into Noli, comment down below your favorite killer, and while you're down there, like and subscribe. Noli before Forsaken was a showman, being an inspiring one-man show that used hacks to make major spectacles across Robloxia for all to see. However, this inspired the wrong kind of people and ended up inspiring famous hackers like 007. But past his shows, He was also a scammer, even scamming someone for the crown that he wears today. Over time, however, Noli overreached his power and the Roblox admins started to despise him, causing him to become a quote-unquote disappearance. Eventually, he was forsaken and was offered what he saw as the stage of a lifetime. He now has power far beyond anything he could get before Forsaken, and uses it to kill the survivors for fame for himself and entertainment for the Spectre. Now his sole goal is to cause illusions and twist the game to make him the quote-unquote star of the show. But that's it for Noli, so let's get into 1X. Now, 1X is unlike the other killers because he doesn't have some sad backstory to make you feel bad for the killer. He literally is just like King Von and is the manifestation of hatred created by the survivor Shedletsky. We know he was created somehow through the Necrobloxicon when Shedletsky made the Council of the Swords, but the details are unknown. He somehow became a fourth-dimensional being as well, which is how he's able to see through walls and attack through walls with fourth-dimensional beings interacting with the world like this. When he was Forsaken, he wasn't manipulated by the Spectre or even offered a deal. He just wanted to kill Shedletsky and his friends with every waking moment he got. But that's it for 1X. So let's get into guest 666. Guest 666 before Forsaken was known as Sixer, which he used because he was bullied relentlessly for his name, with rumors that he was an evil hacker who was a beast. This is, of course, because 666 is the mark of the beast from the Bible, something that will be important later on. Sixer's first friend was Noob, who quickly became his best friend. They hung out together all the time, went to parties, and loved each other. But during all of this, Sixer was bullied, so behind Noob's back, he started to inject himself with scripts to become more powerful to fight back. But these scripts started to overtake him, and when Noob noticed something was wrong and tried to help, Sixer attacked Noob, causing their friendship to come to an end and proving the rumors true as he became an evil hacker. When he was Forsaken, the Spectre turned Noob into who he became on the inside, a beast. He mutilated his body to become large and made him super dumb, but despite this, somehow he was still able to recognize his only friend, Noob. But that's it for Sixer, so let's get into Nosferatu. Nosferatu before Forsaken was a part of an ancient race of vampires that was founded by a pact between Dracula and the Necrobloxicon, which forced them to drain the blood of Robloxians. Nosferatu was one of the original vampires along with his friend Striga, and because of the Roblox admins hunting them down to avoid eradication, they made a very strict hierarchy of vampires to control the younger generation so they could live. But Nosferatu believed that this was unnecessary and complicated, so in rebellion, he started to kill hundreds of Robloxians for the love of the game. After this, Nosferatu was hunted down by the vampire hierarchy for treason, but fortunately for him, this caught the attention of the Spectre. But unlike the other killers, the Spectre didn't reach out himself, but actually sent his agent, Phosphorus, to go get Nosferatu. They offered him a vague deal of infinite celebration and desire in exchange for entering Forsaken and serving the Spectre. Nosferatu, of course, accepted and brought the masquerade with him, which is apparently a person and an event. It's weird. Also, Striga is here somehow. From my best guess, he was Forsaken along with him and will be a future survivor. But that's it for Nosferatu, and actually every existing killer, so let's get into the upcoming confirmed killers. Our first upcoming killer is Azure, who before Forsaken was actually a part of the Spawn cult that 2Time is in. This cult believed that the Spawn symbol seen on Roblox spawns will actually give the people in Forsaken a second life. Note that in the reality of Forsaken, you only have one life, and then the afterlife in what's most likely heaven, hell, or the limbo area that is Forsaken. One day he met 2Time in this cult out in the forest when 2Time was collecting wood for the cult. From there they became best friends and eventually romantic partners. But during this 2Time's mental state started to deteriorate as the cult kept trying to manipulate them to do more and more to gain a second life. Eventually the cult convinced them that they had to sacrifice Azure to achieve this with the sacrificial dagger we see them use in game. So he led Azure out to a field of nightshades, his favorite flower, and sacrificed him there. From this, the Spectre got a hold of Azure and manipulated him to believe that 2Time was the main villain here, which although he was a bad person for committing to it, the cult was the main problem. But that's it for Azure, so let's get into Doombringer. Now, Doombringer before Forsaken seemingly was a part of the Council of the Swords, a group created by Shedletsky to stop hackers. Through this, he befriended a person called Darkheart, who was also a part of this group, and both of these guys really didn't like hackers. So they started doing cruel and unusual punishments on them and would kill most hackers in Forsaken, with him most likely being the person to kill hackers like Noli, 007, and maybe even Coolkidd. But after this, he was kicked out of the group and hunted down, which is presumably how he died. In Forsaken, we know that he'll wield Darkheart's sword, possibly implying that Darkheart will be a survivor released with him. But that's about it. Like and subscribe.